harder and harder on you guys. Sebastian brought slides in French, and I'm going to bring it in Portuguese. So I think we should definitely have presentations in Hindi, please. Yeah, let's step this up. And yeah, we also, but then again, we also have another hat of the Francophone and Lusophone communities in ICANN. So that's the. By the way, we have no one from Goa, please, if you know someone. Okay, so go on to the next one. Yeah. So let's start with something less in Portuguese. So the IGF is the Internet Governance Forum, which is an international event, a global event, which happens every year, promoted by the United Nations Department of UNDESA, but also has national and regional initiatives. So anyone can start an IGF. All you need to do is to get to know how to start your national or regional initiative. That can be done on the session there, IGF initiatives. There is a toolkit. Of course, there are some criteria that the UN has to have an IGF, a local IGF. So, for instance, for countries, if you are doing an IGF Brazil, you have to be associated with organizations in Brazil. For regionals like the West Africa IGF or the Latin American Caribbean IGF, you also have to have organizations from these regions to support you. And there are regions that have many IGFs. I think Africa has 4. And of course you guys have Asia Pacific Regional IGF, APR IGF, which is really, really large and has a lot of participation from India community. And I highly recommend that you involve yourselves in this process too. There is an open call for workshops. It's one of the few regional IGFs which has an open call for workshops. That means you can present in this Asia Pacific Regional IGF. And it is one of the only cases of intersessional global collaboration. Usually they happen 1 week before the other or in the same week, and we have already collaborated Latin American Caribbean IGF and Asia Pacific Regional IGF. So again, it's a very interesting space to be in. The IGF has then the global and the national or regional initiatives. But also, the IGF has, let's see, slide number 3, a MAG, which is a multi-stakeholder advisory group. Those nice smiley faces there. So this is the 2016 IGF MAG. And, well, here there are already some MAG members who have finished the term. So we are term limited for 3 years. You can apply to be part of the United Nations Multi-Stakeholder Advisory Group for the Internet Governance Forum. So it's a volunteer working group. And depending on your engagement, you can participate on the meetings during the year to prepare the IGF. It can be 2 to 3 meetings, and on the IGF itself, which this year is in Geneva. In 2016 was in Mexico, where this picture was taken. So I think we have Virat Bhatia over there, like third from the corner to here, who was India business MAG member, private sector. His term ended in 2016, so currently in 2017 we have no one from India on the MAG. We do have 20 or so MAG members who are government representatives. So India had an IGF before, so still India has representation, has the right to present on this group. Not always, sometimes it changes depending on the government. Sometimes the government is more involved, sometimes it isn't. This year, For my stakeholder group, which is civil society, there will be a renewal. So each year there is a renewal. Who has already served 3 years is rotated out. So you can still engage in IGF or in other activities, which I will talk about soon. But then new places are open, so people can apply. So for my stakeholder groups, unfortunately, there are no slots for Asia Pacific. But the IGF has a commitment to helping create a diverse internet governance ecosystem, which is just what Sebastian has presented to you. So we need to have the more organizations we can and the more regions we can, gender balance, as well as stakeholder group balance. So we need to have people from all regions, all stakeholder groups, etc. Of course, we are always committed to suggesting to you all that you can participate on this ecosystem. You can subscribe to the list and so on and so forth. So, so talking about the stakeholder groups, yeah? My group, as I said, is the civil society stakeholder group. The civil society stakeholder group usually connects a lot of other groups which can be global as well, and where you can, again, subscribe to the list and participate in the discussions. It is really about a conversation as we're having here, like really getting to know the topics and subscribing to the list and start sending your projects and so on. So you can subscribe to, for example, Internet Governance Caucus, Best Bids, or you can be a member of APC. APC is more like an umbrella for NGOs. You have ICON Civil Society as well, one of the groups there, No Commercial Stakeholder Group, the JustNet Coalition, and let's see the National and Regionals Initiative on number 5, slide number 5 over there. As you see, we have also many IGFs all over the world where you can join and participate. And another important way to view the IGF is that it's not just the on-site event. So the on-site event is one way of participating. But during the year, you can have your name, you can be an author of a UN IGF document. You can be an author of a United Nations Internet Policy Recommendation. How do you do that? You can do that participating on the intersessional work, which are the working groups, the dynamic coalitions, the BPFs. These are groups that get together to look at one topic and publish a report on that topic. So one of the most interesting ones, so this is 2016 conclusion working group, but we have Olivia here with the Dynamic Coalition on Core Internet Values, for instance, where they discuss what are the most important values for the Internet. Then in the Best Practices Forum on Gender and Access, for instance, we have the discussion on how can we increase access to women, how can we include women in the Internet economy. The dynamic coalitions, anyone can join a dynamic coalition or start one. You can write a letter and say, hey, I want a discussion on blockchain. So a topic that Glenn is very familiar on. So the dynamic coalition on blockchain already has 2 versions of its final report published. And you can get there and say, no, I think in this report, you should talk more about blockchain for emerging economies or for BRICS. This is very important. And then, articulating all this intersectional work, there are the, sorry, let's see slide 7 with all the black. These are all the dynamic coalitions that are currently there: accountability, community connectivity, coordinate values, freedom of expression, and let's see there, the slide. So, articulating all this intersectional work is the MAG, but also the chairs of the dynamic coalitions and the BPFs, and the MAG working groups. So you don't need to be a MAG to be in the IGF. You can be in the working groups, and you can, thank you. You can suggest ways that intersectional activities can move forward. You can suggest day zero events as well. Other groups, such as, oh sorry, this flu really got me, such as Internet Freedom Festival and RightsCon, also participate in the IGF and civil society independently led working groups. And let's see, 11, I'll just jump on icon because you already have a lot of that. So, WISIS, which is the World Summit on the Information Society, is also another event by the ITU, which sorry, deals a lot of diversity and inclusion, and has meetings that are parallel, sometimes parallel to IGF meetings. So this is also another space for you to get themes that you can work with in the IGF. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up over here. Get back to the slide, to the number 2. Yeah. So here, oops, sorry. I hope you can still hear me. So I'm just going to go straight. Here to IGF 2017. Here on MAG, you have MAG working groups. Oh, okay. Okay, so here, on IGF 2017, you have the MAG working groups. So currently now, we have one working group, which is the multi-year program. So the multi-year program will not only decide the IGF for this year, but all the intersessional work for the following years of the IGF. So we are in desperate need of volunteers for this working group. This is led by MAG Chair itself. And you can propose your own sub-working group. So you can propose, you can build a new alliance or a new coalition of technology over there. So again, I highly recommend that you get involved in it, that you know more about IGF. And if you have any questions, anything you want to know about the IGF, just, you can always count on me, okay? Is anyone been familiar with IGF activities anymore? Let's just take a show of hands. Who has done a workshop? How many here have done a workshop? Okay, so we have one over there. So there's a call for workshops every year. And there are programs that you can get, that you can apply for funding to go to the IGF, like Internet Society programs. There are the Civil Society Ambassador, there's a youth program, so 2 programs over there. You also have programs inside ICANN for people who are engaged in ICANN. So At Large has one. UC had one. inSIG I think also had. And how about been to an IGF? Who has been to an IGF? Let's take a show of hands. Okay. All right, so here I think there was, the IGF here was in Hyderabad. So it was a while ago, I think more than 5 years ago. But so countries can apply to host the IGF. So for hosting the IGF 2017, there was a big dispute between India and Switzerland. It is the 12th year of the IGF. So in the end, the IGF went back home, it was said, because it began as a UN organized event. It would be in the UN building, but it was almost hosted again in India. So it would be the first country who would host the IGF twice. Another interesting information for you is that you can, if not only on the working groups, on the dynamic coalitions and on the BPF, you can join, but you can also, as I said, be an author to the documents, but also propose yourself. So if you want to be chair, if you want to be a leader of a dynamic coalition, of a best practices forum, you can reach out to the IGF with your proposal. You can write to the UN and say, hey, I believe that we have no studies, for example, on BRICS and internet governance. Let's form a dynamic coalition on internet governance. I believe we have no study, for example, in multilingualism or indigenous communities and internet governance. So this is other ways you can also participate. And being a chair is a huge responsibility. I was a co-facilitator, it's called, on the BPF Gender and Access in 2016. And it's a huge responsibility because you get to unite all the volunteers, you get to give, how can I say, you get to sow the process, you get to align with everyone where they want to go with that document, with that recommendations. In the IGF, it does not have a binding role. So it doesn't mean that governments will do what the United Nations tell them to do. But recommendation coming from a forum such as the IGF carries a huge weight. So also on your research, if you are researching gender, if you are researching community connectivity, the IGF is one of the largest references you can quote, because that is a collaborative recommendation done in a United Nations event. So it's a very, very important place to look at. If you're interested in geopolitics and technology, for instance, it's of incredible importance to see where the IGF is going. Let me look if I... Oh yeah, and all the publications, if you want to know how IGF India was like, all the publications and all the reports are published there. They remain in the libraries of the UN as well. So they are, the archive we have on internet governance in the world are there in the IGF website, okay? And one of the interesting things as well is to check out the statistics of participation. For example, of all the sessions approved of all the countries in the world that sent to the IGF on internet governance, what do you think is the participation of developing countries? Give me a number. 40%, 30%, 20%. So how many of us are there, developing countries? Any idea?
40%?
How many developing countries sessions in the IGF? 40%?
30 to 40?
30 to 40? So, let's see a show of hands who think it's 20%. Okay, how about 30? Do I have 30? How about 40? Which are the optimists on us? Okay, we are in 47.8%. Yes. Congratulations to all of us. It is a huge challenge to increase developing countries' participation. Because you imagine this: you are sitting in a room to discuss, in a United Nations room, to discuss the future of internet governance with Facebook, with Google, with the US Secretary General people. So you are with these people, and you are representing either your civil society from Brazil, for instance, NGOs, or you are representing China, or you are representing Cuba. So who is going to have more participation in this event? So every year this is a huge struggle. We struggle for more developing countries' participation. We fight for inclusion of women, for issues that connect poverty and internet governance, for sustainable development was a theme in the IGF twice, in 2015 and 2016. And I will always say that it's no point participating in these debates if you're not clearly, if you do not have clearly in your mind what do you stand for. So what do you stand for? What do you want to see happen in the internet governance scenario? So when the meetings happen to prepare the IGF and all the intersessional work happens, what you're actually doing is standing for something. So we need to speak out on this meeting. This year there was a huge change in the workshop evaluation process, and one of the things that came to my attention was there was a workshop with 12 countries in Asia, including India, which wasn't approved. I spoke really loud about this workshop. It was one of my flags. And everybody was like, why are you from Latin America? Why do you want these people? What are you defending? It's not about who or where or which. It's about inclusion. So we need to speak really loud when you want to speak for participation of more developing countries, to end poverty, for sustainable development. We have to be very clear on that. So this was one of my, one of the moments that I was really happy to see this workshop pass. We have some people here in inSIG who participate in this workshop. And to me, it is an example of how we should fight for people who really deserve to be with us, yeah, in these debates, and who are not currently represented. So follow the processes, speak out, and do collaborate on the multiple tracks of work. So being the MAG is one of the things that you can do. There's a selection open. As I said, for civil society is tougher this year for Asia Pacific, but the selection is always committed to increasing diversity and inclusion. So if there is a country or a stakeholder group that never participated, there is a good chance it will be chosen. But there is not only the MAG, there are the working groups, there are the intersessionals. So you can even have a stronger voice in an intersessional than you would have on a MAG, for instance, or the MAG role. So yeah, so this is it. And thank you very much, everyone, for listening about the IGF, and let us know if you have any questions.